The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And good morning, everybody. This is Ray Hanania. It is Wednesday, July 14, 8 a.m. Eastern Time in Detroit, 4 p.m. in Dubai, and 7 o'clock in Chicago. We have a great program for you this morning. In segment one, we're going to look at the Arab Americans who are working at NASA. With NASA engineer Dr. Hasan Almekdash. Dr. Almekdash is a biostatistician at NASA's Johnson Space Center. I was worried I'd stumble over that word. Too many big words in science. At the KBR Space Science Health, Human Health and Performance under the Flight Medical Operations Division. He also provides significant consulting support to the Biomedical Research and Environmental Sciences Division at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Later in segment two, we're going to be looking at the August 3rd elections for Dearborn Mayor with two election specialists, Denno of Denno Research and Kyle Melinn of the MIRS Newsletter. Denno founded Denno Research in 2004. He understands candidates, nonprofits, associations, and election issues, and he's been doing it for over 30 years. Kyle Melinn is editor and vice president of the Michigan Information and Research Service, MIRS, a daily online political news service covering Michigan government and politics. But first, I want to wish all the Muslims around the world an early Eid Mubarak for the Eid al-Adha celebration that begins on Monday. I know it's early, but I'm on radio only on Wednesdays, so I got to do it now or afterwards. So Eid Mubarak, everybody. We're going to take a quick break here at the Ray Hanania Show, which is brought to you by Arab News at arabnews.com on the U.S. Arab Radio Network and arabradio.us. We're broadcasting live on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit and WDMV AM 700 in Greater Washington, D.C. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll talk with Dr. Hasan Almekdash of NASA. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
Now getting your COVID-19 shot gives you a shot to win. Anyone in Michigan 18 and older vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 is now eligible to win millions in cash prizes, including $1 million jackpots and $50,000 daily prizes. And vaccinated students could win thousands in college scholarships. Get eligibility details and enter at mishottowin.com. Subject to sweepstakes rules. Scholarships available for ages 12 to 17.
New Dawn Academy provides your kids with a curriculum that's rich in science, technology, engineering, and math.
We want students to really experience what problem solving looks like. What does it mean to build things together? And really working on those analytical skills is what makes New Dawn Academy's program very unique.
This school will certainly provide them with academic excellence, but also state-of-the-art buildings and inviting to students.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Dana, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And welcome back to the Ray Hanania Show this morning on July 14th. I'm Ray Hanania, and we're talking with Dr. Hasan Almekdash, who is with NASA. And welcome to the program, Dr. Almekdash.
Thank you, Ray, for having me.
I'm very excited. I mean, one of the things I had heard were that not only that there were, we had an Arab American that went into space a number of years ago, and I think 2 years ago, didn't we have someone from the UAE? I think Hasan Al-Mansouri from the UAE was the first UAE's first astronaut that went up. So, suddenly I'm seeing all these Arab Americans that are in an Arab world, people that are in NASA. And then I hear about you and two others that are working on the Mars mission. I'm going, wow, as an Arab American, I'm very proud to see that. The NASA and space mission has been one of our biggest drives since I can remember back when I was a kid in the 50s and 60s. And you're not alone, are you? There are a lot of Arab Americans at NASA.
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of Arab American scientists who are working at NASA and at contractors with NASA. So we are trying to do a good job.
Well, I'm sure you are. Now, first tell me a little bit about what you do at NASA. Give us a little sense. I know I gave you the bio to listeners, but a lot of titles, long titles, which is typical of big bureaucracies like NASA and even at the news industry. But tell us exactly, what do you do?
So I'm a biostatistician at NASA Johnson Space Center under KBR Human Science Contract and Performance Contract. So basically, we analyze data, medical data and biomedical data, to learn lessons, predict trends, and participate into medical and biomedical research. So that's what I exactly do.
And you had mentioned to me earlier that there were something like 25 Arab Americans that you know about that are there.
Yeah, I know about 25 Arab Americans, approximately. That's 24 Arab Americans. They are working or worked at NASA.
And what kind of work were they doing?
Well, most of the people are engineers and scientists at some divisions or supporting some divisions through contractors. So that's what I know about.
Yeah, and obviously, I think Arab Americans are a natural fit with NASA. When you really think about it, there's so many engineers in our community. My brother and my uncle, half of them are doctors, half of them are engineers. It would seem like there'd be far more that would be involved in NASA. So it's just good to see you and many other Arab Americans. And just, I think this month, it was the U.S. Mint issued a coin in honor of Krista McAuliffe, who was, I think, the first Arab American astronaut. She was half Lebanese, half Irish, I believe. And of course, as we know, she had passed away on that mission in 1986. But they did issue that. So there's a sense, talking to you and hearing about all that, that Arab Americans have a big role to play in NASA. Do you have ambitions of actually putting on a astronaut's uniform and spacesuit and going up in one of the missions?
Well, I wouldn't say no, but I'm too old for that.
Is it really an age, like, in terms of travel and space?
Well, I don't think it's exactly that based on what I know, but I am more interested in doing the science, what I learned, and try to help with that. So I like what you mentioned about Arab Americans and in research and science. I think it's our way of blending in with community for a lot, at least, it's a way to blend in and to give back to the community that gave you, and to try to create something in the new country you're in.
Yeah, and it seems like it's a fascinating profession. I mean, it would be phenomenal to work at the Johnson Space Center and they've had so many names over the year, the Kennedy Center now. They're Arab Americans, candidates from the Arab world. What's the next mission coming up? Do we know what that is, or is that within your field to talk about? Do we know what the next?
Within my field, what we are trying to do is we are of course, this is a large team of scientists and doctors. So we are studying long space travel. So and its implications on health. When you go to space, you have a lot of fluid changes. You have a lot of things that happen to the muscles and bones. You have radiation effect, and life happens even in space. So you run into medical situations, and you need to figure out a way to deal with these. So basically, we conduct research at NASA and KBR. We support the NASA scientists in our expertise to find optimal solutions for long space travel. I think this is the big thing, regarding my area.
And of course, being Arab American, that isn't an issue at all, is it? I mean, when NASA looks at people, they don't really look at your ethnicity, other than to say we're proud that we have great diversity at NASA. I mean, people from all walks of life.
No. NASA is about diversity. KBR Wiley is about diversity. So I work with a team that appreciate and respect everybody and treat people equally. And it really means a lot to our community. When you are working or related to space things, it means a lot to my daughter when she sees this badge and she tells me, okay, I want to be an astronaut in the future. I want to go to Mars, and it gives a push to everybody in our community that it's possible. So I think it's great, and I highly appreciate all the diversity I see around, in terms of the research teams and the employees and everybody, and the industry on one hand, NASA on the other hand. So it's great.
And we had, I think, two Palestinians who are living in Gaza, who are working, or from Gaza, living now in the U.S., who worked on and are working on the Mars mission. Have you heard anything about that mission coming up?
I've heard a lot about the Mars mission, but I've been here for a month only. I'm still brand new, so I know about the Arabs around, the Arab Americans, of course, working at NASA, and I will be happy to meet them soon in the future, on some project.
I wonder if we can get all the Arab Americans together, April is Arab American Heritage Month, and do a special with all the Arab Americans working in NASA to do something. You got to push for that over there. I'm sure they listen to you, right?
Oh yeah, we will try. We will try together and give a nice talk show if that's possible and if they can.
I'm sure. And what's the big news coming out of NASA? I mean, in terms of space travel, what should we be looking forward to, or are those secrets?
Well, the missions out there about Mars, about the Moon Artemis mission, and of course, it's not something I talk about, I am focused on the medical research. So basically, hopefully, we will try, to solve all the data problem concerning, human health in space and how to make space travel, long space travel, possible. So all of that will come out soon.
And I remember, I think about 5 years ago, because I helped the company Ziad Brothers, one of our sponsors actually for the radio show. They actually put Wild Garden hummus on the space station, the International Space Station. And that was, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, and it was this little shelf-stable hummus. Didn't have to be refrigerated. So I know that they've had Arab food up there in the space station. Is the mission focused on the space station, or is it focused on exploration? You know, your sense of NASA. Are we pushing to go to Mars and the moon, or is it just to kind of maintain a presence in space around the Earth?
Well, I will tell you, like, from my experience, what I saw and what I know about NASA. So basically, the research being conducted in NASA, whether it's on the ISS or beyond, like, it has great implications and huge implications on all, like, life, or our real life we live on Earth. So, for example, when, like, medical research and, like, biomedical research is being developed for space, it's the same research used on Earth. So when NASA develops, like, smaller medical devices, telemedicine for space, it's the same medicine you use for a rural community, and you help, like, people in remote areas on the planet Earth. So I think whether it's, like, for like deep space, solar system exploration, the ISS projects, NASA's projects have great and big implications on all of our lives in terms of making our lives better through science and technology.
And of course, if you're there, I'm sure you give us a plug to do a radio show from the International Space Station, from the Arab News. We'll do a show out there. I'd love to do that. Everything's all technology and internet, so it doesn't matter where you're at. I'm in Chicago, and we have the radio show in Detroit and in Washington, D.C. And for our listeners, again, I just want to remind them that we're talking with Dr. Hasan Almekdash, who is with NASA. He's an engineer there, and through KBR, that's a contractor, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and they have, and I think NASA does that with everybody. There are a lot of contracting companies that come in, and you're focused, you said, on the biomedical research, correct?
Yes, I would call myself a biostatistician, and statisticians, you know, the people who play with numbers and who learn about what's going on from numbers and answer research questions. So scientists ask research questions. We statisticians use statistical techniques. Statistics is a branch of mathematics, and we answer these research questions and participate in answering these research questions, in fact.
Is that like doing the odds of things happening and stuff like that? I mean, going into space, there's so many unpredictable dangers and things that could happen. And is that what they give you? Like, what can we expect with this mission?
Yes, we kind of, like, they collect data. We look at this data to calculate, like, risk estimates, odds ratios, like, we do predictions, like, you know, so what we learn from the data we have now, what we can learn for future missions. And of course, you know, you have these big research questions, and we try to answer them using these numbers we have and making things better, for example, in the future.
Do you have a sense of some of the other Arab Americans? I mean, do you guys, when I'm Arab American in journalism, I want to know other Arab Americans. I was one of the few in 1976 in the U.S., and now we have a lot more, and I try to get to know all of them. Is that the same thing that happens with you?
Yes, absolutely. I want to know about them. I want to meet with them, talk to them. You know, I'm still, like, you know, new, but I'm trying. So,
and are there a lot? I mean, have you met some? I mean, what are they doing?
Well,
can you talk about their work?
Yes, there are some scientists that are working on, like, you know, environmental research, like concerning, like, space, and there are engineers. People who study water, like in outer space, and, like, in all walks of science and technology. As we said, NASA is very diverse, and you see people from all the United States, from all the, let's say, people of the United States working there, including Arab Americans. So they are, like, science folks, mostly the people I know about. Like, they are engineers and they are scientists.
And can you tell us some of the secrets? I mean, is there a place where they're building these giant spaceships ready to go into space if there's some catastrophe on Earth, like in the sci-fi movies?
Of anything like that.
All right, and I just want to make sure, okay? And by the way, are you able to? You had said you wish you could travel, but in an age might, maybe you're older than what they're doing. But do we know of any other Arabs that are Arab Americans or Arabs from the Arab world that we know of that are scheduled to go into space? I mean, is there any information about that? I know it's outside of your, specific area of duties, but I don't know if that's common knowledge or, just something that we...
I really don't know personally of anybody who is an Arab American and astronaut. There might be people who are that, but I'm not aware of any. I don't know if there are any right now or for.
But I'm sure it does make us proud, though, right? Arab Americans involved with NASA. When the rocket goes up, we're part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be great. That would be nice.
Any final thoughts at all? I know it was, I've been dying to get you on for the last, few weeks because NASA is such a big deal to every American. Anybody, especially in the U.S., and I think it's a growing thing in the Middle East and the Gulf, and a lot of the listeners who are watching us and listening to us on Arab News on the Facebook page, there are like 5 million followers there. And I'm sure that we do involve foreign countries in our space missions and astronauts. So there's hope for them if they want to travel, correct? They want to be astronauts.
I don't know about the exactly what you need to do to be an astronaut at NASA. So I think, I assume this is above my pay grade, but I assume you should be a U.S. citizen. I'm not sure about that, though. But I think NASA is a big deal. It has a mission to humanity.
Yeah.
It's bringing space to everybody. So, all the eyes are on NASA. It's the hope and future in some aspect for space exploration, going beyond what we know, and science, technology. So I wouldn't be surprised if everybody in the world would love to be an astronaut at NASA.
When I watch the movies, I think of you being the guy that they turn to and say, Dr. Almekdash, what are the odds? What's going to happen? What are the odds if we do this? So I'm sure that's the big question they throw at you. Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we make it work? Listen, Hasan, thank you again so much for joining us this morning. It was a fun interview. And I know that I'm looking forward to doing this some more. If you at some point want to talk with them, and if there are other Arab Americans, I'd love to bring them on too, and other Arabs to explore this even a little bit more from different fields in NASA. And any final thoughts, before we say thank you for joining us?
I will say thank you for this nice interview and for being interested in science, space, NASA, KBR, all of that, Ray. And I would like to say happy Eid to all the Muslims in the world, in the United States of America. And I'm happy to be here. And I hope to be here in the future to talk about more topics and issues concerning space medicine, biomedical research, and space in general. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Dr. Hasan Almekdash is a biostatistician, and of course I'm pushing him into all the NASA stuff. I mean, biostatistician is important, correct? To NASA, you got to do the numbers, you figure out the odds, you figure out what is going to happen, and as we all know, computers are all about numbers. He's with NASA's Johnson Space Center and KBR Space Science Human Health and Performance Unit under Flight and Medical Operations Division. Dr. Almekdash, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It was really a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure to meet you. Have a good day.
We'll have a good day. We will talk later.
And
everybody out there, this is Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to shift gears from NASA to the elections in Dearborn with two guests, Kyle Melinn and Dennis Denno, right after these messages. We'll be right back.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
While we've been staying safe at home, scientists have been on a journey. The destination, a COVID-19 vaccine. This journey began decades ago with research into other coronaviruses. Scientists built from there with months of research and development, cooperation with other experts worldwide, and clinical trials on tens of thousands of volunteers of diverse race, age, and health status. They arrived at a safe, effective vaccine, and hundreds of thousands in Michigan have already been vaccinated. But the next step is ours. We need to get the vaccine when we can. Keep wearing masks correctly and taking precautions until we reach our destination. Freedom from COVID-19 and getting back to the lives we love. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And we were talking about NASA in the first segment, and I know that Dubai had identified 2 astronauts, Noura Al-Matroushi, an Arab world woman, is going to be one of probably the first Arab world female astronaut. Kristen McAuliffe was the first Arab astronaut to actually go into space. But last April, they also announced that her male counterpart, Mohammed Al-Mula, was going to join her as an astronaut. I think they were focused on the Mars mission. And, of course, having hummus up in the space station. I think that lasted about a year. Hummus is very healthy, and that was Arab-American made from Ziad Brothers. Anyway, welcome back to the Ray Hanania Show. Now we're going to shift gears and talk about what I love the most. I mean, I love NASA, but I love politics more, and I have 2 people that are veterans of politics that love it as much as I do because they'd have to. Because all the stuff we have to go through, you write something, and you get clobbered by everybody over a letter. or a word or whatever. So it's a tough field to get involved with. But on August 3rd, Dearborn is going to have primary elections for mayor to succeed Mayor Jack O'Reilly, who is retiring. And we have Dennis Denno, who founded Denno Research in 2004. He understands that candidates, corporations, nonprofits, associations all need a pollster, and that's what he does best. He's been doing it for over 30 years, monitoring politics. And Kyle Melinn. Kyle, I hope I got your last name right. You can correct me in a minute. He's editor and vice president of the Michigan Information and Research Service, MIRS, a daily online political news service covering state government and politics. He's been a journalist, a professional journalist for 25 years, covering the state capitol in Michigan for the last 20 with MIRS. Kyle, Dennis, welcome to the program this morning.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having us.
And Kyle, did I get your last name correct? Melinn?
Melinn.
Melinn. I apologize.
That's all right. I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing your last name, so we're going to be even, I think.
Yeah, just call me Ray, okay? I got too many vowels in there. Everybody thinks I'm Italian, but that's okay sometimes. And Dennis, welcome back. Dennis is a veteran of our radio show. He's been on a number of times. Let's start out with both of you. I mean, how important is this upcoming election? And I know that there are, 7 people that have submitted their names. Susan Dabaha from the city council president, Abdullah Hamoud, a state rep. Nice guy, met both of them. Hussein Berry with the Dearborn Public Schools. Jim Pirelli, Thomas Patrick Tofalski, and Gary Woronchek, and Kaylit Shari. I don't know if we know much. Willis. I don't know if we know much about her, but what's this race looking like?
I'll go first. I mean, so the August 3rd primary, as you said, Ray, and my gut tells me that Susan Dabaha, who's the council president, is going to come out of that primary, and I also would think that Abdullah Hamoud would also be in there. That's my gut.
Yeah, just from looking at this race, I would say, Ray, that there's really 4 candidates who I think are really primed to advance the primary. And Dennis just mentioned Dabaha and Hamoud. But I think you got to really pay attention to Gary Woronchek. The guy is a former state representative. He served 14 years on the Wayne County Commission. He's got some deep roots in the community. I know everybody's pretty much in the field is born and raised in Dearborn, but he's 3rd generation Dearborn. He was at the local paper for 25 years. And I expect him to connect well with folks on the west side, particularly those who are elder and have been in the community a long time. So I think he'll do well. And I think we've got to keep an eye on Thomas Tofalski as well. He did get 43% of the vote against O'Reilly back in 2017. And, considering how bad O'Reilly's traditionally beaten his opponents, 43% ain't bad. But, we'll see if he can get the fires going again after being out of city politics for 4 years. But I would keep an eye on those 4 with Hussein Berry being just someone to keep an eye on as a school board member.
And it's obviously, being an Arab American radio show, we think everything evolves around being Arab. Dearborn has a big Arab American population, but it doesn't necessarily mean an Arab American is going to win, right?
Oh, no question about it. I think the Arab American community in Dearborn is their numbers are getting stronger. I think they're voting more. They're voting as a block more. But no question, they don't make up the majority of votes in Dearborn, and they don't always vote as a unified block.
Yeah, and being Arab American doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good candidate. I mean, I'm Arab American. I love to see Arab Americans elected, but I'll be honest, I'm not going to vote for somebody that I don't think is going to do the job. And sometimes that means voting for somebody who's not Arab American. In some communities, I think, like in some areas of Chicago where we barely have any representation, the idea of voting for an Arab American is a must. We don't look at experience and what you're going to bring. We look at their ethnicity. But I think Dearborn, you guys are way past that, aren't they?
Well, I can't speak specifically on that, but I will say that Arab Americans tend to vote at a higher percentage than maybe their white counterparts on the West Side. Just historically, and you just got to go back to 2013 when we had the first Arab American majority on the city council. And it just shows kind of the pride that you're speaking of here. And, Hamoud and Dabaja both are going to be appealing to that base, and Hussein Berry to a certain extent to the Syrian and Lebanese population in the city. So, they're going to tap into that same base. I think the question, Ray, is going to come down to what extent do they chew into each other's base on that side? And then going over to the West Side, what Warrencheck and Topolsky do. You mentioned we have a couple other candidates in the race. Pirelli, I don't really expect him to do a heck of a lot. He got 12% in the primary when he ran in 2017. I don't know if he's got anything new to offer to the equation. It doesn't really sound like it at this point. It doesn't sound like on the ground he's got a ton of momentum. And we've got a seventh candidate as well in the race who's kind of a newcomer to the city, Colette Sherry Willis. It looks like she wants to get involved in politics, but she's relatively new and in a field of candidates who are pretty much all born and raised in Dearborn. I think she's going to struggle. I think just in general, just talking about the demographics breakdown, it does seem like we've got people who are balanced out on both sides of that.
Yeah, I'm assuming that there's some out there in the Arab community that are saying, yeah, we need an Arab, but I bet the majority are saying, hey, we got some big issues. Who's going to address the issues? What's the big issue out there? I think I know what it is, but Dennis and Kyle, what do you guys think are the big issue or issues that are going to drive the decision in that election, which is only in a few weeks?
I think the big issue right now is the fact that there's been some very serious flooding, especially on the east side of Dearborn. They had some pretty serious rainfall in a very short period of time. And this is the second time this has happened in like 5 or 7 years. So you have a lot of people in East Dearborn and in Detroit whose basements got flooded. They have raw sewage pouring in. All their belongings are ruined again. And, I know the Dabaja folks were on the ground trying to help folks. I know Abdullah Hamoud was on the ground trying to help folks with that. I assume Topolsky and Warrencheck were doing the same. And so I think that's going to be a really big issue is infrastructure and the flooding.
And the flooding was new. It's like a shock, right? But not everybody flooded, though, right? There were a lot of flooding, but, when you look at the voter base, and I know that's probably going to be a big issue with a percentage, right? Kyle, do you think everybody is focused, all the voters that are going to be going to the polls are focused on the flooding issue, which I know has dominated the news over the last few weeks?
Well, I think a broader issue is infrastructure in general, though, and to the degree to which the taxes that you all pay in Dearborn are going to fix the infrastructure. I know that residents in Dearborn feel like they've been taxed quite a bit, and are they getting what they're paying for? And that's the feedback that I'm getting from businesses and residents is, hey, why are we having this flooding in the eastern side? And they might not have been directly impacted over on the west side or maybe other parts of the east side, but they know that it was an issue and they have empathy for those folks over there and wondering, hey, why do we have this problem? I thought we were paying quite a bit in taxes. And I think that could be a thorn in the side for Dabaja because she's the only one in the field who is directly involved in city government at this time, even though, of course, Topolsky was involved in city government up until 2017.
Listen, guys, I want to take my last break. Let's get that out of the way. And then when we come back, I'd like you to tell me, because one of the keys to an election is the organization. Who's really a good candidate? Because you got to be a good candidate to win office. You can't just put your name on the ballot. If you don't have a good organization, you don't have issues. Who's defining the issues? Who's at the forefront and stuff? So maybe we'll get you to do that. I'm Ray Hanania. My guests on the line are Dennis Denno of Denno Research and Kyle Melinn. I hope I got that right, correct?
Melinn.
Melinn, Kyle Melinn, all right, is editor and vice president of the Michigan Information and Research Service. Both professionals when it comes to elections. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about the elections in Dearborn, August 3rd. We'll be right back right after these messages.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you. Enjoy the first Syrian-style cuisine in Michigan. At Damas Cuisine and Catering, you'll find a wide selection of Syrian foods and sweets in our menu, like frikeh, poisi, grape leaves with steak, mashawi platter, hot mahashi, char-grilled kebab, shawarma, and much more. Get super fast delivery from Damas Cuisine and Catering right to your door. Order online at damascuisine.com/menu and track your order live. Damas Cuisine and Catering, 28841 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Call 248-987-4985. Visit Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600. The U.S. Arab Radio Network is proud to offer the Ray Hanania Show with veteran journalist Ray Hanania, the U.S. correspondent for the Arab News newspaper. U.S. Arab Radio broadcasts content Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. on WNZK AM 690 in Detroit, WDMV 700 in Washington, D.C., and simulcast through stations around the country. Programs will rerun from 5 till 6 p.m. Visit us on Facebook at U.S. Arab Radio. And we're also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News.
And welcome back to the Ray Hanania radio show here at WNZK AM 690 in Detroit and WDMV AM 700 in Washington, D.C. Streaming live on the U.S. Arab Radio Network at arabradio.us with Layla El-Husseini, the big radio magnet, we'll call her, the Rupert Murdoch of the Arab radio industry. Oh, I should pick somebody better than Rupert Murdoch, I guess. And also streaming live on Facebook.com/Arab News. They have about 5.5 million followers there, and I know that the numbers are up and they are watching because they're interested in what happens in Dearborn, which is like I don't want to say the Plymouth Rock of Arab Americans to settle in the U.S., but it has a huge Arab American population. We got 2 experts in the field of politics, Dennis Denno of Denno Research and Kyle Melinn. I got that. I'm going to get that. Hanania. I don't mind when people mispronounce my name. I just figure, okay, that's just the way life is going to be with me. But I always hate to mispronounce anybody's name. Kyle and Dennis are talking with us about the 7 candidates running in the August 3rd primary. And that is that a Democratic primary, or do you have like a consolidated primary?
nonpartisan election. There's no Democrat or Republican. The top 2 vote getters move on to the general.
And who are the best? Seriously, I mean, the media focuses on flooding, and maybe that's good for some of the candidates. Are there any controversies that are getting washed aside by the flooding that nobody can focus on?
Well, I think in all communities, you're seeing a discussion about police protection and the extent to which the police are going to be serving the community, and in what capacity. I mean, are we talking about defunding police? Are we talking about actual fewer police officers, more police officers, or the kind of services that they provide the constituents? I think those are conversations that you're seeing in cities across the state, Dearborn being no exception. But I would say because of the flooding, that's kind of pushed that subject off to the side for the moment.
That would have been the big issue, you think, had it not been for the flooding?
Well, that's been the issue in cities across the state. I don't know specifically about Dearborn, how that emerged, but I know that conversation was going on.
Yeah, Dennis, what any other issues had the flooding not been the... And that, am I correct in saying flooding is the big focus?
That's what I've been hearing about. I don't live in Dearborn, but that's definitely what I've been hearing about from my friends in the community, my friends in Dearborn who are politically active, and what I've been reading about in the paper. You know, I think another issue in Dearborn, I don't know how much this, the average citizen is paying attention to this or is frustrated by this, but, the current Mayor O'Reilly, when this flooding happened, I mean, he was pretty AWOL, and then he came out and said, I'm pretty sick. I'm pretty ill. He came out with this long letter, and he asked for privacy due to his health concerns. So there's kind of this void, this vacuum right now of leadership coming out of Dearborn City Hall, which is kind of unusual. And just a little factoid for you, Ray, and for your listeners, that since World War II, Dearborn's only had 4 mayors. Yeah, all white males. And
in Chicago, we've had like 12, I think.
Yeah. We all
it's
know
more fun here in Chicago. You guys should come to Chicago, all right? Chicago is the political capital.
Ray. I love going to Chicago. So this will be a pretty huge election for Dearborn. I mean, they're going to completely change paths as far as mayors, mostly, And
go ahead.
Yeah, I would concur with that, Ray. You just, even historically, even before World War II, they've only had a handful of mayors. So the voters of Dearborn, unlike, let's say, cities like Flint, stick with their mayors. And so this could be a long-term commitment, presuming that the person who gets elected continues to do well. But that's why this is such a big election. That's why you're seeing so many quality candidates get into this race. I mean, we're talking about a school board member, the president of the city council, a former state rep, a current state rep. These are not second-tier candidates. These are top-tier candidates because they see this as a long-term proposition.
You think this election is pretty much decided in the minds of people, or is it still up in the air? Obviously, you got 7 candidates, so it's hard to say who really controls everything. But, I mean, you guys are veterans, and, when I look at candidates, I know that, this candidate knows how to run, very well-known, really financed. And then, on the other hand, there's this candidate who just can't seem to do anything right. But I may think that, wow, they just, they're good candidates. You think there could be a surprise? And who would that person be that could really come up from behind, or that people are not paying attention to?
I'm a friend of Hussein Berry. I think Hussein Berry is a great guy. Like Kyle said, he's on the school board. He might be the school board president. He's a realtor, very active in the community. He was on the board of Access. Great guy. I would be surprised if he comes in first or second in this primary. And it's nothing against my friend Hussein Berry. Honestly, I'd be surprised if Tafalski does well in this primary, only because he's been out of office for 4 years. I helped him a little bit when he ran for mayor for 4 years ago. Wasn't super impressed with his campaign, although, like Kyle said, he got 43%, which is impressive. Nothing against Tafalski. I mean, very well known, very well liked in that community. I just don't think his campaign has what it takes to come in first or second. If he was the only non-Arab American running. I think maybe he would, but I think Gary Warnachek's going to take a chunk out of him. I just think it's going to be hard for a guy like Tom Tafalski to raise money and to put together a machine. So those two would surprise me. And then you have the peripheral candidates, Pirelli and that other woman who I don't even know her name.
Willis.
Kyle? Yeah.
Willis.
Go ahead, Kyle. As far as surprises, I would be surprised if, and I know that Dabaja and Abdullah Hamoud, you're predicting will go on, but given, again, the makeup of the city and 60%, roughly 60 to 55% of the vote comes out of a white population. And, as much as you hate to admit it, there is still a cultural divide in Dearborn, and it's pretty marked. So I would expect that Warnachek will probably come out. I would be surprised, too, if Tafalski wins or advances to the top two. I would think Warnachek, though, would be the survivor on that side. And I think Dabaja and Hamoud will be battling it out for the other spot. Really the flooding and the response to the flooding, I think, will play a big role in which one comes out. Dabaja, I think, came in with a big advantage being a city council president. She's the first Arab American woman to be the president of the city council. That was a big source of pride for that community. When she was elected in 2013, she got more votes than Tafalski, 32 votes it ended up being, but she beat him. So I would say that she came in with a lot of support, but Hamoud has been very good campaigner. He's been very aggressive. He's got some young ideas, got some young volunteers. And you mentioned Ray, you mentioned how good of a campaign someone is running.
Right.
And Abdullah Hamoud is running a very good campaign. He got the endorsement of the Wayne County Executive, Warren Evans, which is significant. And his on-the-ground response to the flooding and the teams of people that he's had hauling stuff out of people's basements certainly has been impressive.
And I can't say I know who's going to lead or win, but I will say that of all these candidates, especially the Arab candidates, Abdullah Hamoud was the only one that came on the radio show. And to me, that tells you that he understands media and how important media is. A lot of times politicians, they like somebody, they don't like somebody, they'll stay away from people they don't like. But the truth is, even if there's a column that's beating you up, you need to reach out to all the media because you have to use them. And you should never give a journalist, and I'm not saying I did this with any of the others, but you never give a journalist the upper hand in a relationship and say, I'm not going to talk to that person. A good politician is going to say the media is important. And out of all these candidates, who do you think is dominating the media? Who's getting the most tread, in the media in terms of coverage? Is there anybody, or is it just a big blob? I mean, I know we're talking about people, who may, the candidates you guys think may lead or come out on top. But when you look at the field, who's really out there attracting all the eyeballs and possibly the votes?
I'll go with that first. And part of the reason I said Dabaja and Abdullah Hamoud, I think, would come in first and second is because they have the resources, right? And they, Abdullah Hamoud.
Are they using it? Are they using it, those resources, effectively, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think both of them are running an impressive campaign. I agree with Kyle that Abdullah Hamoud's smart and he's young and he's got a team. My concern for Abdullah Hamoud, not that he asked me, but if he asked me, I think he might be a little too progressive for Dearborn. I think Susan Dabaja definitely is on the ground and has the ear of the Dearborn community. And look, women traditionally do 2, 3, 4 points better than males, and she's the only serious female candidate in the race. Like Kyle said, she's the president of the Dearborn City Council, and you become Dearborn of the City Council in Dearborn by being the largest vote getter. So she knows what she's doing. She's very smart. She's very aggressive. She's a very hard worker. And that's why I picked those two. I can't speak for Gary Warnachek. I think Kyle's right. You never underestimate Gary. He's very smart. He's very shrewd. I don't know where he's getting his funding from. I don't know if he is getting any funding. The guy ran for state senate a few years ago, and he did okay. He didn't do great, I don't think. I don't remember, Kyle. But and that's kind of why I picked Susan Dabaja and Abdullah Hammoud. I think they're the ones who have the resources. They're the ones who are using it strategically, and they're the ones who are reaching out to the voters.
Yeah, you mentioned the media, Ray, and who's been kind of utilizing the media. From my observation, what I've seen is that the media in Dearborn has tried to play this very fair and tried to give everybody an opportunity to take advantage of the press coverage and do kind of like specialized profiles on each of them where they fill out the questionnaire and so forth. Keep in mind that Warrencheck was a journalist for 25 years. I mean, before he became a politician, he was the editor of the Dearborn paper. So he knows a little bit about media, but media has changed so much since he's been the editor of the Dearborn paper. And a lot of this connecting is, as Dennis said, is utilizing the financing that you have and also being on social media. And how active are you on social media? And I will give Dabaja and Hammoud credit for that. They are on social media. Hammoud's got pictures of him and his crew standing outside wrecked sofas and mattresses and stuff. So he's out there, and Dabaja's out there with a state police officer and somebody from FEMA. I mean, they are utilizing the new technology, which I think is probably gives them an upper hand on that aspect of the race.
So, Dennis, you think the lead, and again, we're not saying who's the better candidate, but the lead candidates are Dabaja and Hammoud. And Kyle, you're saying Dabaja and Warrencheck?
Warrencheck. Yeah, with Hammoud having a good chance, too. I mean, I think he may be surging here at the end. He may be getting that push. You know, Dennis mentioned that he's got resources. He's been able to, he may be the better financed of the bunch. We haven't seen campaign finance records until later this month, but the early signs are he's got the financing, and he could be making that last push to finish second or first, for that matter.
And final question for both of you, because we're just almost out of time. I wish I had a 3-hour radio show like I did years ago at WLS. But with Kyle and then Dennis, any surprises that could happen? I mean, is there anything like on the horizon that you're surprised hasn't surfaced and kind of taken over the election, or is this pretty much coasting now into the last few weeks?
Oh, I don't think this is coasting at all. I mean, Michigan is transitioning more toward voting early and voting with absentee ballots. We saw that in the last election. And so that, I think, does advantage maybe the older candidates like Warrencheck because older voters do tend to like to vote early. And so if you've gotten out there early, that could be a help. But the issues here in Dearborn do appear to be more local. It's not like we still have some Trump hangover like I think we're seeing in other parts of the state where like, oh my God, we went through this Trump election. I don't want to participate in elections again. This one, I think, is more long-standing because Dearborn tends to keep its mayors. And so the issues tend to be a lot more local. So I would be surprised if there's any surprise. I would be surprised if there isn't a good, solid participation among the voters in Dearborn.
Dennis?
If you're asking me to come up with a surprise, my surprise would be Hussein Berry does really well on the east side, heavily Arab American, uses his connections and his resources and does a lot better than expected.
And if it wasn't for flooding, it would probably be a debate over Donald Trump. I'm sure it would be like the dominating issue. Listen, both of you guys, tell me your website so we can get people if they want to go there. Dennis and Kyle. Go ahead, Dennis.
DennoResearch.com.
And Kyle?
Yeah, it's MIRS News.com. And we do have a free podcast. So if anybody wants to listen to Michigan politics, you can go to MIRSnews.com. There's a link to our podcast there.
Nothing wrong with plugging the show, and I want to do that because I appreciate both of my guests who have joined me. Dennis Denno, who founded Denno Research, and Kyle Melinn. I think I got it that time. Editor and Vice President of the Michigan Information and Research Service. Great to have you guys on. After the election, we got to do this again to kind of look back to see what happened. I'm Ray Hanania. We're at the end of the show here. We'll be back next Wednesday. We're going to be talking about the Ethiopia-Egyptian dam controversy and what impact that's going to have in that region. Wars have started for less reason, and hopefully it won't go that direction. Eid Mubarak to all the Muslims for this Eid al-Adha coming up. on Monday, and we will talk to everybody again. Dennis, Kyle, thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.